What's up, YouTubers? It's me, Johnny. Haven't made a video in a long time. It's 9:16 here in Cambodia. Just having some cheap beer. Anyhow, it's a little bit less than I thought it'd be. So, a six-pack of beer here at the local, like sorry, like they'd say in the Philippines. I don't know what they call them here, but the local stores here is like 375 if you're interested in that kind of information. Less than 375 because I gave her 375 and she gave me back 30 cents or something, 40 cents. Anyways, here in Cambodia, when you get your change back, you get paper money. They don't have coins. That's not bad. Anyhow, um, enough of that. Not much is going on here tonight. I've just been watching the markets. Let me just check and see. The euro's down more than a 0.5% against the dollar, which kind of surprises me. The euro's been really weak. Dollar yen. The dollar's been really strong against the yen. The yen's been really weak. Let me just look here. The yen's at 140.13. I got some positions at 134. It's really distressing. I was thinking the dollar's so strong it'd correct back, but it sure hasn't. It really hasn't. It's been disappointing. Same thing with the euro. So I was hoping the gold would sell off, but it looks to me gold was up a little bit today, or at least right now in trading. It's up about $3 maybe. Have to probably refresh it, but let's see. Silver's up 1/3%, 7 cents. Anyways, the dollar's strong, and I was hoping for a little sell-off in gold. I don't think it'll go much below. What's the low end? 1930, 1930, 1950, like in that range. Anyways, it looks to me like we're entering a recession. It's quite interesting watching things from here in the United States. I just got done watching a video on Nomad Capitalists. He claims, I didn't check the paper he was looking at, but I believe it. More and more millionaires are leaving the U.S. He even made a good point that maybe most people don't know this, but because I'm in the East right now, more and more people from China are leaving. There's an interesting phenomenon going on in Thailand right now. There's quite a few Chinese people presumably bringing suitcases of cash. I'm not really sure how they do the transactions since there's exchange controls, but there's wealthy Chinese are buying up properties. Excuse me, in Thailand. They're also buying up properties here in Cambodia in Sinukville. Not necessarily here in Siem Reap, but in Sinukville they are. But anyways, at the high end of the market in Thailand, they're buying up the more expensive properties. The more low end properties, 20 to 50, 60, 70, $100,000 usually go to the Americans, Canadians, Europeans, and the Russians and the Chinese are buying up the more high end properties. Presumably, the Russians are looking for a visa. If you buy a property and you spend enough money, you get a 5, 10, 15, well, it depends what you get, but you get a 5-year and up visa if you buy a property. And it's quite a few Russians and presumably Ukrainians looking to get out of the country, from what I gather of their draft and all that kind of thing going on. But in the last few weeks, I've been watching videos on some of the gold prognosticators, Keith Weiner being the more interesting one I've been watching. If you watch a lot of his videos, you'll see he has a really good understanding of gold and the role it's played in history. And he has a good understanding of how, as societies inflate more and tax more and regulate more, they tend to wind down. And some of it's kind of frightening to listen to, because I gather in 10 or 20 years he expects things to get really bad in the U.S. He had mentioned in a few videos, I didn't realize this, but he's wealthier than I thought. He had sold a tech company to, I think, a company in Canada, and he cashed out, and then he got into his business, which is monetary metals. But anyways, he was looking for kind of a plan B in New Zealand, and he was kind of thinking it all out. If things really get ugly, you might not want a plan B in New Zealand where you hunker down in those special places, those special retreats, and you have a year's worth of food laid away, and hopefully when you come back up, things are like mellow. But even if, like he was pointing out, if things get really bad, things will not be mellow. Even if it's mellow where you live and you're an old man like him or me, we're about the same age. It will not be a pleasant experience spending 12 to 16 hours a day growing your own food. And I was just thinking, if it got that bad, there won't really be much in medical care, for most people, anyways. Anyways, it's just fascinating to listen to him talking about gold and how when societies wind down, the last asset people really have is gold. And when you have inflation, more and more regulation, more and more tax, more and more capital goes out of business and productivity and goes into gold, which is fine, but then there's not much to buy because there's no production in goods and services, or there's less and less production in goods and services. So it's very fascinating. And if you have the opportunity to listen to some of his podcasts where he explains or he talks about these things that went on in history, and once you lose prosperity, it's really hard to get it back. I mean, just look at Russia from their first revolution right up to about 80 or 89 or 90. Now, when I listen to that kind of thing, I always think they're overly pessimistic, but you never really know. But what I like about that is his timeline is about with mine. In other words, he thinks, like same with Brent Santiago or Santiago Capital, that you can kick the can a few more times, and I actually think that's probably possible. That's why I'm always claiming the rate of inflation slowing down. I'm not saying it's going negative, but slowing down. And we'll have a few more opportunities to the government will have a few more opportunities to kick the can, excuse me, and keep the welfare state going and pensions and all that going another 5 or 10 years before the whole thing collapses. But excuse me, if it does collapse, there won't be very many places to go to unless you're talking low productivity societies like Asia, parts of Latin America. I won't be in the Middle East. That's for other people, but parts of Asia, parts of Latin America, things, depending how they unfold, will be interesting even there. But it's just really fascinating watching all these videos on well, I listen to a lot of earnings calls, and a lot of these retail companies, they have what they call shrink, which is another or a fancy way of saying theft. And Target, Walmart, among many other companies, have had $500 million to $1 billion plus in shrink or just employee theft. And then you watch these videos of people just walking into stores and just taking everything from blue states to red states. Not much is really being done to handle that. Then you watch all the homeless in the U.S. and people want to argue it's less in red states than blue states, but from what I've seen, especially in Arizona, a purple state, it just keeps going up. And I think the economy is winding down, at least from a recession point of view. It's going to be more and more unemployment and more homeless, and that's just going to get worse. And there's more and more crime now. Another thing that I want to say the rebel capitalists, but not the nomad capitalists pointed this out. And he's not the only one, but crime now in the Yucatan in Mexico and in Mexico City and a few other towns, the murder rates in some of these bigger cities in Mexico is actually less than the murder rates in a lot of the big cities in the States, which I thought was funny. I'm not particularly surprised, and I recognize that it's hard to know what the real numbers are, whether in the States or in Mexico, but especially in Mexico. It's just a clue. I'm not making any big political statements, just a clue on how things are going. But especially in the Yucatan, that place is mellow, and a lot of people don't like it because it's too hot. I visited it in the last year and a half, I think, and it's it's like here, it's very hot and humid, and they get the storms coming in off the Caribbean. But it is, well, depending on where you're at, it can be very affordable. Now, if you're in all the gringo areas, it's not going to be, it will not be affordable, like Merida and Cancun and like, oh, what's that, Cozumel. Um, there's too many places there that I can't remember them all. But what's that? Oh, there's another one that's really famous where the taxis charge you outrageous amounts to go to the beach. I can't remember. This like they call the taxi mafia there. It's so expensive. Some gringos just rent a bike to ride a bicycle there. Just it's Tulum. Yeah, I think it's Tulum. Anyhow, in that area is what I'm talking about. If you keep going towards the Belize border, there's a city there. The border city is called oh, I can't think of it now. But if you go to Caleritas, it's a really beautiful area. And if I was gonna bug out in Mexico, from what I saw there, it reminds me a lot of the Philippines culturally. I'm talking culturally and cost of living. You can rent places there for under $100 if you're willing to just get away from that little tourist town or the border town, and you're right next to the Belizean border, if that's of interest to you. But anyways, it's very cheap, it's very safe in that area. Mexico City is interesting. It's a little bit more expensive, but it's not bad. I tend to spend a little bit of time there because of the pollution. That's the only thing I don't really like about it. Um, it's on par with Lima. The nicer end of town is, I don't want to say better than Lima, but to me it's better than Lima from my, that's just my personal opinion. Anyhow, I'm getting off subject. Um, I haven't been making videos lately. I don't know that there's much to say anymore. You have a lot of vloggers, a lot of really good vloggers. I came across, oh, there's an English chap. Oh, I forget his name, but he spent quite a lot of time in the Philippines. And every time he leaves, he seems to come back, and he has really good videos. I wish I could remember his channel. But why he's famous and why he annoys people is because he makes very offensive videos. Because during COVID and after COVID, during COVID, it was kind of cheaper to live in the Philippines, just like anywhere else. Rents went down, just like here. Now rents are going back up. But he made a set of videos where showing his expenses were five, six, seven, eight, 900, $1,000. And he just pointed out he only lives on that much because that's all he has, which I understand he's about 60. Oh, it's Mr. Biggs. Mr. Biggs. Biggs World, I think, is his channel. I might be wrong on that, but I think it's Biggs World. He's really good at making, editing videos. That's another thing that he said that I found fascinating. Uh, he pissed people off because he thinks people spend too much money, which I understand, but everyone has different amounts, just like he acknowledges. But he's having a ball there in his dating life, in making videos. But he did point out, and people always ask me, how come I don't make videos? How come I don't edit videos? Because of what he said. It takes 3 or 4 hours to it takes 3 or 4 hours to properly edit a videos, and I just decided for me it's not worth it. I don't really have the content that's really worth editing everything. So anyway, that's why I don't really edit. Anyhow, I think it's called Big's World. If you're looking to live in the Philippines and you're looking to live on a budget and you're just looking for something a little different, it might rub you the wrong way. And he makes opinions about foreigners giving allowances to their girlfriends and wives, which I thought was hilariously funny. But my views are more aligned with him, especially when you're talking about dating in Asia or Latin America, and why guys seem to spend so much money in anywhere, but from the Philippines to Thailand to even here. One thing that's cool about here compared to the Philippines is there's still a great abundance of cheap apartments. From his videos, from what I've seen, and he's just started tackling. Normally, he's in the southern part, or not the Mindanao, not Mindanao, the Visayas. He's in Cebu, in that part of the world, the Visayas, and he gets really awesome apartments for 200-300. But now they've been kind of going up because COVID's pretty much over, at least there. And now he's in Manila. But it's just fascinating watching him make videos on how he spends his time in the day, his interactions with people, men and women there, and how in some cases he lives very affordably there, which does trigger quite a few people. That's another thing. I made a comment in Facebook about the cost of living here in Cambodia. You can get apartments here from it's still possible to get apartments here for 60, 70, $80 to like 150, 200. But as more and more people move in and rent those, it takes more effort to find them, is what I'm trying to get at. From 250 to like 500, and there's more abundance, and you can get a bigger place and a nicer place. But also a lot depends on if you want to sign a 6 month or a year lease. I sign leases for less than 3 months, so I'm willing to pay a little bit more. And even with what I have right here, it's 250. And incidentally, I got my deposit from my last apartment. In case you ever come here, I did get it from the lady, so it's pretty neat. It's pretty cool too. She gave me it all in cash and didn't go to the bank or didn't have to do this. I gotta go to the bank. Can you come back next week? Kind of thing, like you run into in Latin America. Just pulled out the cash. And my point of saying all this is a cash and carry type society, and it's very safe here. Some of my friends suggest it's not safe here. I think it's very safe here. I think Thailand and Cambodia are very safe compared to the Philippines. I don't particularly think the Philippines is particularly dangerous, but it depends what you're doing, where are you doing it, and it also depends on your understanding of face. I think the same thing here. If you make people lose face, it could be dangerous, or you could have misunderstandings. But as long as you kind of understand that, it's very safe here. You can. Now, I'm not suggesting you walk around with $20,000 of cash in your pocket, but I can see why you hear about these stories in Thailand where there's a lady, I think from Singapore, left $200,000 or $300,000 in a taxi in Thailand. The dude gave it back to her, returned it. You hear those stories quite a bit, even here. Although there are issues here, it's not perfectly safe. I'm not suggesting that, but anyhow, I kind of just videos going all over the place, but it is very safe here, and you can roll up. You only have to pay a 1 month deposit in your rent. And in Thailand and the Philippines, typically they want first, last, and deposit, and sometimes even another month. Now, when I lived in the Philippines, I never did that. I just paid 1 month and I paid a deposit, and then I agreed with the landlady that my last month I wouldn't pay, so I wouldn't have to ask for the money back. And because usually in the Philippines they don't have the money to give it back to you anyway. So anyhow, I digress. Getting off the subject a little bit, but anyways, it's very fascinating watching all these videos of excuse me, watching these videos on how things are, getting more interesting in the States, and kind of all the foreigners leaving North America and Europe, coming to Asia and Latin America. It's very interesting. Just really, really interesting. It's very fascinating to see that, and what that trend will lead to. So anyways, I don't have much else to say. I just think in the next 5 or 10 years, it's going to be very, very interesting to see how all this unfolds, and especially as we go into a recession. And I think crime is going to continue to go up, and homelessness and all that kind of jazz. I think you're going to see an increase in fraud and theft in the United States. I can't comment on Europe, but I have one of my acquaintances I'm going to inquire about certain things that are going on, see what their opinions are. Anyways, that's it for tonight. Like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. Thanks.